We're on a planet that has a problem. I'd love for you to go to the web and find that song. It's called Sing for the Climate. We're on a planet that has a problem and we need to solve it. We need to resolve it now. Anyway, I'd love for you to look them up, Sing for the Climate. It was done all over Europe and large groups of people sang that song, and it's just so uplifting to me. Anyway, my name's Therese Swenson. I'm doing a show here in the Alvarado studio at Siskiyou Media Council. This is in Weed, California. So we're on South Weed Boulevard by the back entrance of the college. This is the College of the Siskiyous in Weed, California. I like to invite people to get involved in public access, and especially now, because you have time. You're at home. You're probably even messing around with your laptop. A lot of people have been doing fun things where they show how they're getting exercise in the house. I've seen some great things where they work out with their kids or take their dog and teach it tricks or something. There's been some great videos. So I know people are learning about their iMovie in their iPad. So I'd like to encourage you to think about, have you ever taken a trip and taken some great pictures? Would you like to put together just a little, and you know, it can even be 5 or 10 minutes. You don't have to do a 20 or 30-minute clip to fill a half hour. If you just have a little trip you've taken and you can share that. Nowadays, people have these memory frames, and on the memory frame, they put their pictures, and it's just clicking along and showing the members of their family or something. But you could put a chain of pictures that took people on a little outing. You've got all these people homebound now. You could take them somewhere you've been. If you don't want to talk or be heard, you could just put music. But anybody can submit digital video content on a thumb drive or a 16-something chip or a 32 chip or whatever. And we can put it on public access. Now, you don't really have to be a host of a show like me. You can submit content without ever being known. But you can share something that you might have collected that would be gold to people that are trapped in their homes. We have a lot of seniors nowadays, and they actually do have cable and watch cable TV. I always say, who watches public access? I think mostly people accidentally go by and they catch us and they go, wait, I kind of recognize her. I think she used to deliver my mail. Anyway, I like to remind people that that public access is for all of us, and we need to keep the airwaves open. I like to remind people a lot of times people just get the paper when they want the sporting scores, or they want to get a car or rent a new apartment if your lease is up. You know, a lot of times people get the paper, but I like to remind them that there's a section in the paper, both in the daily and weekly papers, that has community events. And in those community events, it's not just garage sales. A lot of times there might be an outdoor, I noticed neighborhoods are getting together, maybe the kids, maybe just to get the kids to exercise. But like I saw a cul-de-sac where everybody was out there doing jumping jacks and a little routine. And I think people are trying to find a way to get exercise. I've said this before, we all need to find a corner wall in our house and go over and put your back up against it, because I think we don't realize that because we've been sitting a little more in the last 2 or 3 months, unless people have those very desks and they can stand to do their work at home. I just want to remind you that we need to get exercise. It's so important to breathe. Because we're indoors and not exerting ourselves, people are just operating on a real low rhythm of breath. And one of the most important things about this new virus is it takes your breath away. It's in the lungs. And so we all need to take time to take deep breaths and get some exercise at home. All right. So I've been talking about public access television and about the newspaper and how important it is. And magazines, I think everybody ought to get a magazine subscription. Like if you have kids, get Mechanics the mechanics magazine, I forget, Popular Mechanics. I used to get that for my kids, and there was always something interesting in there. So for like, call any magazine that you like in the first 10 pages, and you will find that it has a phone number, and you can just say, look, I don't know if I want your magazine. Can I just pay $8? They will say yes, because advertisers want to get you on their mailing list. So for like $8, you can subscribe to a magazine that might entertain your kids and you. They have a woodworking one or gardening or whatever you're interested in. But one of the things I want to remind us all, everywhere we're going now, because of COVID-19, we have a new normal. Our life is going to change. We do want to get back to get the economy back and moving, but we really need to do what we can to stop the spread of this communicable disease. We've gotten confusing mixed messages. All of us who are watching the news and trying to know what's the right thing to do. At first, they didn't want us to use masks because they needed the PPE for the people on the front lines. Now they're finding that communicable spread is why this is multiplying. So they want us, each and every one of us, to do our part to protect our neighbor, our family, our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers, an elder that is in our family or in our religious gathering. Also the service workers, the people that help you get your food or deliver it to your house, or the gasoline attendants that keep the gas station open. All of those people need to be protected because they also go home to family and friends. So pretty much everywhere you go, you're going to get your temperature taken, and we're all being asked to wear a mask. And I want to remind you that if you're being asked to wear a mask and you feel frustrated because I saw it was like $2, the hospital does have them in the lobby. So if you're driving by the hospital, you could get an extra one to put on to have in the car and an extra one in your handbag and in your pocket. But also, I want to remind people, I really like the ones with strings. There's different kinds to get, but I like the ones with strings because when you put it on and hook it, the strings hang down. It kind of holds it away from your mouth so you don't feel like you're having trouble breathing. I also want to remind you that just because you have to wear a mask, it doesn't necessarily have to be a button one. You can, like I saw on TV, this girl took a scarf and she did something really clever where I'm sure you've seen these mat things where they show how they can tie it up. You could do something clever and colorful. They take t-shirts and they cut them a fancy way. But it's the new normal. So all of us need to make sure we're packing a mask of some sort, or a scarf, or a turtleneck. I took a turtleneck and cut the top off and it worked pretty good. So anyway, everywhere we go, we're going to need masks. So on my show today, which is called These Times, These Times 2020, and I've been trying to get into the studio once a month. I started doing PSA, public service announcements about COVID up in Ashland in February. And then I came down and I've been using this studio because it's so important to talk about it and remind people. You can't be too careful. We have to be diligent and wash our hands the minute we walk in the door from anywhere we've been, and make sure we leave any germs in the sink. We also need to maybe think about taking our shoes off. Now, I don't know what people are tracking and where they've been. It's just really important. We need to maybe kick our shoes off at the front door. We need to think about wiping down surfaces, even our cell phone. You come home, you've washed your hands, get that, I don't know what I don't want to tell you to use something that's going to ruin your phone, but we need to wipe things off that we're touching every day, our keyboards and stuff. We just need to hone our powers of observation of how that little germ, which I've likened to glitter, how we can get that off of us. So just think about that while you're washing your hands, is to get that glitter off. Anyway, in the studio today, I have a wonderful new business that's coming to town. And amidst this COVID challenge that we all have. And her name is Dr. Ann Michaels. She's a chiropractor. I first saw her in Klamath Falls. We've been friends for years, but she had an office in Klamath Falls, and I would drive up there to see her to get some sort of an adjustment or attention to something that was just kind of out of kilter, because I was a mail carrier, and I used to jump out of the car, and by the end of a month or two, I would have just a twitch. So I've been really grateful to the help she's given me. I had a son that was in sports, and he was always tweaking something from his daring challenges. And so I would bring him in and she could fix him. She could see that he was off, that something was just, the elasticity was twisted. So I want you to meet her because she's opening a new office. If you know where Pancho and Leftowitz, so there's the Berryvale Market in Mount Shasta next to the post office. And then next to that, there's this Pancho and Leftowitz. It's a hot dog and burrito stand. And Pancho and Leftowitz has been around forever, but all the locals know to eat there because it's delicious, fresh food. And right next door is an office building. And it's the 400 block, I think it's 407, South Mount Shasta Boulevard. And Annie is opening an office there. So because I only have 2 cameras today, I set up a camera so that I could introduce you to Annie and bring her into your living room or wherever you're watching this from, so you could meet her. And instead of having both of us talking to each other, I want to introduce you to Aunt Dr. Ann Michael. This is my friend, and you're setting up an office during tough times, this COVID. So I'd love for you to address the fact that you're opening an office during these tough times.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Some of you may recognize me from many years ago because I did live here in Mount Shasta back in the late 70s to 90s. But as far as the COVID goes, it is a very interesting time. What has been proven so far is that it's mainly transmitted by droplets. And droplets that are airborne are the most concerning. And if you sneeze, then you've exposed somebody to about 200 billion droplets versus talking versus just sitting here breathing, which is very little. So the idea of wearing a mask to protect other people is important in the sense that it will stop the droplets being out there in the world. In our office, normal and customary procedures, there's a sign at the door. If you have any of these symptoms, don't come in. That's the first thing. You'll have to reschedule. And then once you do enter, we're going to ask that you sanitize your hands and wear a mask. In our office treatment room, we have purchased a new piece of equipment that is an air purifier called a Tri-Air. And what it does is it pushes out UV light, ozone, and ionization into the air. And those things will attract viruses, molds, and bacteria to it and bust open on a cellular level and kill it. And it'll drop to the floor. These are safe levels of ozone and UV light that, if you expose yourself to UV light from a machine that isn't toned down, it could damage your eyes, and the ozone could damage your lungs, but this is a safe level. And then we also have a setting for when no one is there that we can set it to an unsafe level for a human, but we'll definitely sanitize the entire room, which is a wonderful kind of safeguard, make you feel a little bit safer situation for our practice. Do you have any more questions about that?
I do. Wait, okay. Let me see. I do have more questions. I wanted to ask you, first of all, I know that I met you many years ago, and you've always been kind of medically leaning. But what made you to decide to bring your practice here? Because you've had practice here, moved to Klamath, and then you've had been out of the country a little bit with wonderful travels to Chile and working there on kind of a big ranch, doing body work. And so now you're back. And you've been working in Ashland. I don't know, people might recognize you because I could send this show up there. And they might recognize you and go, I know her, because you work with the sports place there.
Well, it's called Southern Oregon Sports Spine. So my journey started in the 90s. I left Mount Shasta thinking I'd be coming right back after going to chiropractic college, and it didn't happen. But I got close. I got to Klamath Falls, and then for the past 11 years, I've also been in South America, coming back every summer, our summer here, their winter down there. And then last year, I decided to come back for real and landed in Ashland. Still, heart of hearts, wanted to be here. I've always wanted to come home. And so I'm just so pleased and happy to finally land back into what I consider the motherland.
So, people need to know there's different kinds of chiropractors. Some people like in Reading. I know some people, they like go in every week or every 2 weeks or once a month, and they lay down on a table and the doctor comes in and he just wrenches their neck. Basically, they get a quick adjustment of their neck. So I know some people go regular, but some people only go when they're feeling traumatized or a discomfort or pain, and they're hoping maybe that's a solution instead of further lab workup. So people need to know what kind of chiropractic work you do. What does it mean, cranial rim?
Okay, so first of all, the training of a chiropractor in Oregon is very similar to a physician. We call ourselves chiropractic physicians. We order lab work, diagnostic x-rays, MRIs, all that kind of things to help us understand what's going on with the body. And I'm more of a functional medicine kind of chiropractor where I like to embrace the entire person and what's going on with them. I realize that most people are motivated to come in because it hurts here or it hurts here, but there's reasons to address your nutrition and your lifestyle as well, and rehab. So, and I'm a craniopath, which means that I do adjust the head and go inside the mouth and work with TMJ issues and headaches and trauma, brain trauma. But the majority of what I like to think about what I do is structural balancing. So I look at you, your posture, I tease out things that aren't working right and try to encourage your body to heal itself on that realm. The work is a little bit more gentle than what you just said, where people, but I do adjust people. That's an osseous adjustment that makes you hear that kind of cracking noise. But in general, I do a lot of things that don't necessarily require that. And I would put myself in the category of a gentle adjusting chiropractor. Okay?
I love that. Now, I've been knowing you for years. You've been really medically interested for many years. You were involved in different studies. And so now that you're back here, you're going to be working at that office, but you're not there full time. So people may want to go to your website. I think we have a web address, and look at what days you're there. Can you talk to people like you're still kind of working in 2 states?
Right. Well, I'm still working a couple of days in Ashland. My office down here is by appointment only. Don't walk up to the door and expect to get in, please, because there may not be anybody there. And I'm co-sharing the office with Dr. Henley. So the days I'm not in that office, he's in there. But yeah.
And now the office that you're in Wairika, in Ashland, this is important. People can go in if they have, because if this shows up in Ashland, that office there, they have other practitioners.
Right.
So anybody can come in.
Yes.
Like even if you're not there, they could potentially be on schedule.
They could, but they wouldn't be seeing me if I'm not there.
Yeah, understood.
That office has 3 chiropractors, a naturopathic doctor, several massage therapists, and a physical therapist working in that office.
So it's
in Ashland.
very active. Yeah.
But they're all practicing social distancing as well and taking temperatures.
And when they schedule and everything, yeah,
right.
Surely. So, okay, now I don't know how much time we have left on this show before I ask her 3 more questions that Barry says. So, okay, oh good, we have some time. So Annie, during these tough times, like I would love, right now it's hard because we don't have a 2-shot. So I'd like to ask you a question and have you answer it, where I ask you that one of the things, it's not just the physical health. Like you were saying, you deal with people's like balance and foods and nutrition and things, but also spiritually and mentally. This has been tough for people to be kept confined. And even though we're worth our own personal things that we bought and we love, and it's all our favorite stuff, I mean, after a while, we're kind of going bug nuts. Everybody's kind of going crazy. Like, I happen to make signs and do other things, so I'm busy. And it was like, I was kind of glad they made me stay home because my house is a mess and I need to clean it up. Anyway, but I want you to talk about mental health too, because part of balancing, like you were talking about, we have a few minutes, so I want you to talk to people about how you approach the stress of being confined.
Well, first of all, because in Siskiyou County, you don't have to be confined. Get in your car and go to a trailhead and go for a walk. And if you're approaching someone in that walk, make sure your mask is on, 10 feet or so before you cross paths, and keep it on for another 10 feet or a couple of yards past them, and then you can take it off. Take long, deep walks and breathe heavily. Get some fresh air, get some vitamin D conversion on your skin, and get that UV light happening. And that's where it's safest, I think, is outdoors. And we have plenty of that here. And that in itself will really help with your mental state more than anything, I think.
Now that's really important. You're talking about getting outside, and I did notice a lot of the camps, or whatever they're called, national forest, state parks and things, were closed for a while because they were totally sanitizing everything. And I'm not sure if they're using steam or lights or what they're doing, but they're going through, and I don't know how they're providing restroom facilities, or if they are, because that's a problem to try and keeping it clean for each between people. But the trailheads, like for example, for the Pacific Crest Trail, there's 750 miles that go across the state of California, and you don't have to walk the whole thing. You don't have to get a backpack and take your sleeping bag and stay on it. You can just go up and do a piece of it. She's right to remind you of that. Here, Castle Craig's is where you can get on. Up in Ashland, I think at the ski park, you can get on and go either direction. So it is important to know that you can get onto those, but there's so many other hiking trails and places. And she's right, if we're outdoors, we really can take our family and our pod, who we share time with, and we may have a walking clip that I always show, and I tell people, this is a pod of people walking. And that's why they're not wearing masks, because I use this picture to remind you to get up and get out. We can't just be bent and sat and working from here, and just those little bit of push-ups and things. We need to get out. And like you were saying, when you pass somebody, it's important that any molecules that you're going to spread or that they left behind, you're not walking into. So it is important to wear them and be conscious outdoors that you can still have distancing, and we can go so many places. Now, one of the things I noticed in the market is the rows have little arrows on them and things, like you're only supposed to go one way through a market. And I kind of found myself going the wrong way. And one time I found a family in the aisle, and I thought, now what's up with this? Can't they just make a list during these tough times? I don't think the whole family has to say that's my favorite cereal. So we need to think about reducing the amount of people that are doing the shopping so that only one person, we're trying to distance ourselves in the stores. So we want to be conscious. So you're right to say get up and get out. And we are lucky to be in Northern California and Southern Southern Oregon, where we have beautiful places to go. Some of the other things I like to remind people, and I've always said I'd like you to be a volunteer in your town. And it occurs to me, though, with COVID, you really can't just go be a volunteer somewhere, but you really could find out maybe if the county's going to need help with contact tracing as we're having increased risk. The see something, say something is very important. If you know there's an elder in your neighborhood that may be alone and somebody's not shopping for them, I don't know if you could call the county or if you could leave a bag of groceries outside their step. We do need to broaden our vision to our neighbors. In the old days when people came across country and communities were built, it was built around people praying together, whoever their religious belief was. And those churches and groups and gatherings supported each other and helped each other. And nowadays, we've all had agendas and schedules, and with the kids, everybody, in a family, everybody's going different directions. We're so scattered. But with COVID, it's kind of brought people back to, it's kind of humbling that we all have the same responsibility to stay focused and keep humor in our life. And the other thing I like to remind people, you may not have stamps at your house right now, but my post office and some of the post offices, or you could use any big envelope so long as it stands out from your mail. You can leave an envelope in and buy a book of stamps by leaving a check. I think stamps are 55 cents. You can get a book for $11. I'm not supposed to use dollar amounts on public access, but this is public, is it not? Let's see, the Postal Service is quasi-government. So I think I can mention that. But if you leave, the reason I want you to get a book of stamps is with all these people at home, you have an opportunity to write to family members. In the old days, somebody sent a letter and it gave you a view of what they were looking at or what they saw or what the kids were up to. And we had a way of communicating with words. And everybody's getting into text and social media, and that's true. People are still staying, but all of us go to a mailbox. Everybody goes to a mailbox. Somewhere you have a mailing address. So surprise somebody and send a postcard or a letter or something and cheer them up. And if you don't have stamps, you can actually leave. Mail carriers are going to be mad at me for saying you can leave the money for mailing it, but it's better if you buy a book of stamps. If you order a book of stamps and they leave you the book of stamps, then you could write 10 letters. And you know what? It'd be great because I'm sure you'd love to get a letter too. We all just mostly get bills and solicitations. So it would be nice because in the old days, and I thought about this, with this virus, people aren't going to be flying, but they still have to visit family and friends and make their way across country and up and down the states. And so we're going to be seeing more people, maybe with campers or motorhomes or using the VRBOs or things. But we're going to have people traveling on the roads. And it brings back to mind about 20 years ago, they had a wonderful stamp and it had 50 states of the 50 postcards. And it used to be when people drove across country, 2 minutes left, when people drove across country, they would send a postcard from wherever they went. And I think we need to start doing that again and let people know where you've been. At one time, I had a mirror arrangement on the wall. And so when I got a postcard, it was big. And I put all the postcards where they came from all over the country kind of on. And of course, then I moved it, took it down and put it in a box and it's saved forever. Anyway, think about writing a letter or a postcard. Okay, I'm going to need to wrap up this show so it fits in a time slot and they can fit me in. So I'm Therese Swenson. I'm here at the Siskiyou Media Council, which is in the Alvarado building in Weed, California. Thanks for joining me.
We need to wake up. We need to wise up. We need to